Lila had always been the curious type. She loved reading about exotic animals and researching odd creatures, but she never imagined she would end up with a pet spider. But when she saw the tiny, sparkling tarantula at the pet store, something about it captivated her. It wasn't just any spider, it was a curious one, with little golden markings on its legs and an inquisitive stare that seemed to say, "I'm not just a pet, I'm an adventure waiting to happen." So, Lila bought the tarantula and named her Cleo, after Cleopatra, the queen of intrigue. She couldn't help but wonder what it would be like to train a spider. Most people would think it impossible, but Lila was determined. She knew that curiosity could be the key. Step 1. Understanding Cleo's world. When Cleo first arrived in her new home, Lila didn't try to touch her right away. She had read that spiders needed to feel safe in their environment before interacting with anyone. Cleo spent the first few days hiding in her little corner of the enclosure, weaving delicate webs in the shadows. Lila spent her time observing. Every evening, Lila would sit quietly next to Cleo's tank, watching how the spider moved, how she reacted to sounds, and how she built her webs. Lila was fascinated by how Cleo seemed to study the surroundings before making any decisions, as if she were always on a quest for knowledge. The more Lila observed, the more she began to realize something. Cleo wasn't just curious about her environment, but also about Lila. Sometimes Cleo would climb to the edge of her enclosure and peek out, as if trying to learn more about the human who had brought her into this world. Step 2. Curiosity sparks. Interaction. Lila decided to try an experiment. What if she could encourage Cleo's natural curiosity to help them communicate? Instead of just watching, Lila started placing little objects near Cleo's web, a shiny rock, a colorful leaf, a piece of string, and then watched closely. At first, Cleo would carefully approach the items, inspecting them with her tiny eyes. She would circle around them, tapping them with her legs, and sometimes even drag them around. Lila smiled. It was as if Cleo were saying, "What's this? What does this do?" After a few days, Lila introduced a small, clear plastic tube with a twisty path inside. It was a puzzle. Lila placed it in Cleo's tank and watched in awe as the spider immediately began to explore it. Cleo would tap along the surface, testing the bends and corners, and after a few moments of careful study, she found her way to the tiny treat hidden inside. Lila's heart fluttered with excitement. It wasn't that Cleo was doing tricks, but the curiosity in the spider's movements was like watching a puzzle being solved. Step 3. Learning through repetition. Lila understood that like any pet, Cleo needed time to learn. She didn't expect Cleo to perform tricks like a dog, but she wanted to create a sense of curiosity and reward that could help build trust and understanding. Every evening, Lila would place a new challenge in Cleo's environment, a different texture to feel, a new corner to explore, or a tiny moving object to chase. Sometimes Lila would watch Cleo tap the object with a delicate leg, studying it, unsure of what it was. Other times, Cleo would dash over in a flurry of excitement, eager to unravel the mystery. Through these little exercises, Lila began to realize something remarkable. Cleo's curiosity wasn't just about the objects. It was about exploring the unknown, about testing boundaries, and about discovering new things in her world. It was a form of training, but it didn't look like what most people would expect. Instead of commands and repetition, it was a dance of discovery between Lila and Cleo. Step 4. The final test. One evening, Lila decided to try something bold. She placed her hand near the edge of Cleo's enclosure, slowly, gently, as if offering a question. Cleo, true to her nature, crept up to the hand, her legs tapping the surface with curiosity. Lila didn't move, letting Cleo explore at her own pace. The spider paused, then slowly, carefully, crawled onto Lila's hand. It was a delicate, tender moment. Cleo wasn't being trained in the traditional sense. Instead, Lila had earned Cleo's trust through the spider's own natural curiosity. As Cleo sat on Lila's hand, Lila couldn't help but smile. Curiosity had led them here. It had helped Cleo overcome her hesitation, trust Lila's gentle movements, and become comfortable in her presence. Step 5. Embracing the bond. From that day forward, Lila and Cleo shared a special bond, a bond that wasn't built on commands or tricks, but on a mutual understanding of curiosity. Cleo continued to explore, tap, and investigate, and Lila watched with wonder, knowing that each new discovery was part of their shared adventure. Cleo never became a pet who would fetch or roll over, but she became something even more special. She was a partner in curiosity,